Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Trident Talks. This is a specific series focused on cyber CEOs and founders, giving them an opportunity to promote their products and raise awareness around what their company actually does, whilst actually giving some insight into what life is like at the top during these crazy years. So I'd like to welcome Matt Lovell, who's the founder and CEO of CloudGuard AI. Welcome, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm really good, Charlie. And how are you? And a good day to all of your listeners as well.
I'm good. Thanks. Manic Monday. I was talking to the team earlier. With the summer's just totally disappeared. It's now dark outside. So yeah, it's that time of year, isn't it? But I'm good. So Matt, for those people that don't know you, would you like to just give us an introduction into who you are?
Sure, I'm Matt. I've been in the IT industry 30 plus years, lots of different businesses, great number of customers and experiences along the way. And all of that culminated in meeting some amazing people, the co-founder of CloudGuard being one of them, Jav, and us recognizing that SMEs, SMBs were massively underserved, and yet cybersecurity was becoming such a massive issue for us all. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to do it through automation, in terms of a very different proposition for customers, but making that a lot more personal in terms of the client success focus we have, and bringing together the culmination of all those different businesses that I've worked in and people I've worked with to apply that to hopefully the best business that we've built today.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much. Before we come on to at what point did CloudGuard kind of come into the back of your mind and you actually turn it into something? So let's go all the way have you always kind of been in cyber, or is it kind of more of like a generic IT background, or talk us through that journey?
I started out very much in a more generic IT role, and I've been in different IT businesses, some of those service provider roles, some of those, customer related roles. So it's been really interesting getting perspective, on all sides. Working in development businesses, SAP businesses, network and data center businesses, data analytics and data and AI now in terms of where we are. And, seeing businesses from startup all the way through to, multi tens of millions of pounds and multi thousands of customers as well, both here, EU, Nordics and the US.
Okay, amazing. So I guess over the last 30 years, you've seen the whole transformation of IT/cybersecurity, right? It tends to kind of blur into one. Was there a point where you briefly mentioned it there? It's like, okay, cool, you've got CloudGuard. Is it when you met your co-founder, or when did that idea start to kind of materialize?
That's a really good question. So I think it's been a long time in the development cycle. So probably 20 years. So going back to the more generic IT roles, and we started to see data exfiltration, as it's now referred to, and certainly 15 years ago, running a data center infrastructure and cloud hosting, building that business, we started to see volumetric based attacks becoming more sophisticated application led attacks. And the evolution towards the end of those journeys and going into an application business was very much actually, enterprise customers are better prepared for this, but it's going to affect everybody because of the way in which the technology was evolving. So for us, Jav and myself, we actually came up with the idea separately, and then because we were such good friends, we shared the idea, and went actually the thought process was, let's do this together. We started actually at the dawn of Microsoft launching Sentinel 2018-19, and we were beginning to work with that platform when we could see the possibility of how Microsoft was going to connect customers through not just the Office suite of applications and Azure as a cloud platform, but also as AI as it was developing rapidly even then, 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, wow. So you started it right at the beginning of this whole Microsoft automation kind of journey, right?
Very much so. We were working already with Microsoft automation, so we could see how you could build those platforms. And, what we saw was obviously security was going to become front and center as more, customers digitized and modernized in terms of cloud services and integrated cloud services. That's the complexity bit that we need to be dealing with.
Okay. I think that's probably a good time to just tell us a little bit about CloudGuard AI then. If you want to just kind of give us into some insight into what you do.
Yeah, sure. So 3 parts to our business. At the core of it is Microsoft Sentinel and the expertise layer. Lots of our customers are also multi-cloud, and providing a central capability and a visualization across those multi-cloud services. More often than not, we see customers where their security teams, whether it's application, it might be an ERP suite, SAP, for example, and multi-cloud, the security teams are separate teams and separate functions, and you just don't get that central visibility and the speed to actually not just see an alert, but to action that alert and understand whether or not and how it is obviously laterally moving in an organization. And as we all know now, the attacks are multi-layer and multi approach in the vectors, and that in itself is another reason that the quicker that we see it, the quicker that we can take corresponding actions, certainly to mitigate damage and risk and disruption to a business, and obviously hopefully in time to resolve that if we can't resolve it automatically. But CloudGuard is a mission of automated, managed extended detection response. That's our journey. Those 3 teams, we've got a team dedicated to operational and client success. We've got a team dedicated to building automated engineering from threat ops, and it's that threat ops perspective. And we've got an expert team of consultants who help implement the solutions, who work with customers on the continual improvement initiatives that we have to reduce risk and vulnerability exposure and improve posture. Whilst businesses are doing the day job, they need cybersecurity. They want to be better protected. There's so many customers we see saying, yeah, we're okay, we've got good posture. Yet on the other hand, we're seeing customers who have got amazing investments in really strong cybersecurity posture, like Boeing, like MGM, and lots of other customers where they're still under attack and they're still being threatened by the various nefarious actors.
Yeah, I think a common phrase, or not phrase, what we say in our office sometimes is, if no matter who you are, no matter how good you are as a CISO or how mature your security posture is, if you're targeted by quite a good APT group, there's not really too much you can do to some degree. So you mentioned you can work with clients across multiple cloud platforms. That's good. What's
for
those that don't know?
Massive difference, right? Sorry, Charlie. A massive difference right at the beginning, as I said, because there isn't central visibility, and that is actually a major point of exposure for customers.
That central visibility piece, I'm pretty sure that's going to be the answer to my question. But for those people that don't know, what are the complications? Because sometimes you get a vendor or an MSSP or whatever their business may be, they restrict their clients. But okay, well, you have to be leveraging this tech stack. You have to be using this cloud platform or whatever. What are the usual complications from a business if they have multiple platforms, aside from the consolidating of all the visuals, what you just mentioned?
You seem to see in lots and lots of customers is they have security teams that are dedicated to the security stack within that cloud platform, and they are amazing security tools, don't misunderstand me. However, these attacks are so sophisticated and they're crossing the various interfaces and the APIs, and particularly in the way in which we are now accelerating through artificial intelligence and obviously into mass data interfaces and data sharing, and the portability of that data and the IP protection of that data is absolutely paramount to organizations. Yes, lots of emphasis on network and endpoint, into applications, into user, and combining that element of user behavioral analysis so we can truly leverage AI itself in terms of what is expected or normal type behavior and what is less normal. And the pandemic really challenged us all globally as to, we digitized, we worked remotely, and those patterns of working have been heavily disrupted, ever since, for positive reasons as well. However, it's very, very difficult, particularly with how sophisticated, how complex these attacks are, and the reconnaissance can last months and months, if not years, before that they obviously then engage to weaponize and obviously then take a command and control type approach to either ransom an organization or exfiltrate data, whether they do it through a combination of volumetric or sophisticated application attack, harvesting of credentials, or even impersonation or combination of social engineering, as we're now seeing, and obviously impersonation and data. Services themselves need to be wrapped into this security, framework that we are deploying. MITRE is there. SANS is there, CIS is there, NIST is there. However, the challenge is bringing the process maturity into smaller organizations. That's what we're really trying to plug into. And that is multi-cloud, whether we do it through SaaS or we do it through platform.
Process is key. It's great. You can offer the best product and give it to someone. Unless there's a process in play, it's just going to fall, right? It's not going to be used to its utmost effect. So the process piece is awesome. It's good to hear that as well, because we speak to a lot of people and they're like, I mean, we held an AI forum recently and there's some really good content coming out of there, but there are no processes when it comes to almost like, dare I say it, regulating AI and what an end user is supposed to do. What's like the process I need to follow to make sure, I don't know, the accounting department aren't allowed access to ChatGPT or whatever that may be. So it's good to hear. It's good to hear. How's 2023 been for CloudGuard and ultimately you as a CEO?
From a CloudGuard point of view, we've built an amazing team. We've added great talent to that team. We've had this and we'll always have this absolute focus on automation. So as the organization has developed, as we've taken more customers on, as we're helping those customers, then the business is naturally growing. And that then drives a deeper understanding of where we need to invest as a business going forward. And there is an absolutely huge issue with talent, in our marketplace at every single level. So putting the time and the investment in, as we all have to do, right from the grassroots, getting into schools, getting into colleges, getting support for, apprenticeships and those, doing cyber degree, activities as well, all the way through to the different stages of nurturing and mentoring people, maybe not in your own business, right? Maybe in the security pools and the communities that exist in and around our space and our geos as well, all the way through to people that want career changes, and supporting diversity, supporting and encouraging people from a STEM point of view, from diverse, different areas that want to come in. Cyber is an incredibly engaging and always different day to day in terms of where CloudGuard is. But, for me as a CEO, it's about building a great team. First and foremost, delivering tremendous, customer experiences that we want to do. And it isn't about, racing to be the biggest organization or have the most amazing technology. We're working with customers in partnership through a journey. And you have to see it as a journey, right? It isn't going to put this technology in, or we're going to get this security certification, and then we'll come back and we'll revisit that in a time period. Security and continual improvement is absolutely got to be the pivot on which we build the business, and the people in our business help customers.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And I speak to a lot of, I'll rephrase that. We see a lot of companies who will either take on a huge amount of customers and are unable to kind of service them effectively because they haven't got the foundations in place, or vice versa. They'll be like, okay, cool, I'm going to go now hire 24 security analysts and we don't have the customers, and we're going to hope that our sales team or whatever kind of bring in that pipeline of customers, and then our security team can then service them. Both models aren't, particularly smart, and for those people that don't understand, which I'm sure majority of our audiences will, if you can kind of create that automation piece and be super, super lean as a business, you can kind of flexibly, or you can grow at ease without putting too much stress on the analysts, on the business, on the sales team, and all that kind of good stuff. If they're all fundamentals are all automated, it'll be a lot more. It'll be a smoother growth period, right? It sounds like that's exactly what you're doing at CloudGuard AI.
It is, and I think there's been times when we have really challenged ourselves to stay true to the core, because you can scale the business out so much quicker. But we don't want to disrupt those core elements of, we've got to lead through automation. We've got to help customers through that journey. Every customer that we engage with has a different starting point. And then it's understanding how their business is changing, truly doing it through partnership. That's the big part. You can't do that if you have a model that has, limited time, or you're scaling and adding customers, and taking employees on and making sure that they understand your business, and how you help customers as well. I think it's very easy to take on a good number of people. We all know what, that looks like, but you don't give every individual that comes into the business the time they need to understand your business, understand your customers, and understand how they help those customers, most importantly.
Yeah, it's refreshing to hear. You mentioned something around staying true to your cause, right? As founders, we always identify different avenues where we think, oh, that's going to make us X amount here. If we just pivot a little bit here, what would your advice be to any other individual business leader that have they need to stay true, right? Because we always tend to zigzag and digress away from our offering. What would your advice be to someone who's thinking about doing that and trying to keep them on the straight and narrow, so to speak?
I think focus is key. It's very easy in technology to be either distracted by an emerging or changing technology or trend, or a particular set of customer challenges. That also then says, oh, there's an opportunity here, and because you've got that opportunity, you work on it. You help the customer solve the problem, and then you think, can we repeat that? But is it still sticking, the business to its focus? So in our space, we have to be absolute specialists in Sentinel. Microsoft Sentinel is a product set in the security components of Microsoft, as well as the multi-cloud elements. And I think we're already at the point where if you add all three, principal flavors of public cloud together that we work with, at least anyway, then there is a huge amount of ground that we have to cover already. So again, you've got to be specific and say, we want to help customers as experts to the very best of our capability. And there are some problems where we immediately look at that, and rather than solve it ourselves, we go to a partnership. And again, I encourage people to think like that. You are not diluting the customer outcome, right? You are still working with partners as long as you manage those partners to get the solution, rather than try to do it yourself and perhaps not do it as well, or certainly try to learn from that and try to repeat that without the process being as mature as it needs to be. I think you just got to be honest with yourself. And several times, and this is a great thing with me and Jav being very like-minded, several times we catch one another and we go, I think we should work with a partner here. I know that we can do this probably in time. Are we going to do it as well as we need to do it for the customer? Do we have, subject matter expertise and the time to really dedicate to this? Yes or no? Does it help the customer, ultimately? So, that's why you've really got to challenge yourself to do that. There's so much opportunity there. You've just got to stand back, keep perspective, and say, is it the right thing for the customer, rather than, does it move the business forward? Does it expand the business? Really test it, because if you get it wrong, particularly in this space, it undoes everything.
Yeah, especially in such a small market, right? Everyone always says it takes years to build a brand and like a second to destroy it. So it's good to hear that if you just kind of stay focused on the customer outcome, just stay focused on that, it's going to go well. We go to kind of events and all that kind of stuff, and we see all the dreaded sales emails on all over LinkedIn, everything like that, saying our product can do all the things that you need. And when asked about what the business actually does, they're like, well, actually, I'm not sure. So how can you sell me your all singing, all dancing product? So I think partnerships are quite effective, and there's plenty of business to go around as well, right? So it works kind of both ways. Refreshing, really good to hear. So flipping it on its head, life as a CEO or co-founder, what's the worst thing about it? What's the hardest thing about always being on, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, I personally do thrive on that, and it really encourages you to invest every ounce of your energy and your belief into building a great place for people to work and great customer experiences. And you've just got to keep perspective. Things will go wrong, particularly in the business that we're in, and unexpected and known issues with customers that we're working to solve, but they can be really problematic and thorny sometimes, and there isn't an easy solution, or we, in terms of the customer, we've got to prioritize, how we go about resolving these issues, or, suddenly a threat landscape vector changes and we have to pivot, obviously, to protect customers differently. So for me, it's about just maintaining that energy and that focus and that belief and the positivity and the diversity in our employees and in their engagement with customers, and working through problems in partnership with customers. Problems will happen. Some of those that we try to use, more automation and obviously more threat intelligence to enrich and move us to the front foot, or move us more towards the front foot in proactivity. But there will always be a reactive element to everything that we do as well. So managing those, because they can be very emotional at times to customers. It's their business. They've spent their livelihoods, they've spent their lives building that, and they're looking after people, is absolutely paramount to help protect. Helping customers understand how they need to protect it. All of the technologies, do great things, but actually it's how it's implemented, how it's maintained, how it's updated, and again, the processes that interconnect all of that. You're seeing those interfaces and weaknesses really be challenged now by the various nefarious actors, in the way that they are socially engineering and harvesting credentials, and all of those things we have to look at, and we have to have the flexibility and be able to adapt and pivot really quickly, in different directions as well. So you've really got to be challenging yourself to say, no, we've always done it this way. No, you can't. We've got to change this business delivery model, or we've got to change the way that we're doing it, and we've got to work with customers to obviously execute that as well.
Okay, it sounds like you're very customer focused around the process and their whole journey whilst kind of being with you guys, which is good. Being able to pivot, I think, is absolutely vital. Do you ever kind of take it personally if something wasn't to kind of go your own way, or a customer is dissatisfied, either with this business or a different business? If you're anything like me, if anything goes slightest bit wrong for whatever reason, I'm kind of up all night, and it's kind of insulting because I don't want that to happen. I want it to be fluid. I want it to be enjoyable.
Yeah, I've yet to find somebody who doesn't take it personally, and I think taking it personally means it really means something to you, and that you have that belief, and above all, you want to put it right. You recognize that there was an error, there was a mistake, you could have done better, all of the above. You want to invest in fixing it all, and you want to make sure that that doesn't happen again, and that's why you have that emotional energy, to go and make a difference. And I do take it personally. I still take it personally, and I don't really think I want to think differently, if that's right thing to say right now, to actually say, no, by taking it personally, we do move this forward, and we act on it really quickly and in the right ways. Never, it's not a fault of anybody per se. Things happen, bad things happen. We're not necessarily in control of that. Worry about the things you are in control of, and that we can make a difference with each and every day, really.
Okay, I think you've painted CloudGuard in a really good light. What would your advice be to anyone looking to start a business? What are, I don't know, maybe 3 characteristics that you need, and what should people be prepared for?
Yeah, I mean, I've had some really good conversations, and particularly with, the experiences that I've had over my years have really helped me to the point today where I'm like, I've got to have these foundational things in place to help this business be as successful as I know it can be. Some people, don't necessarily have all of those years of experience, and therefore, how do you help people do that? And a big part, of what I do, in my own time is mentor different businesses. And I really encourage myself to go into a business I don't necessarily understand, but, as an independent, as a mentor, you can just see, and use your business experience and apply that in different ways. I think, understanding what you need to get in place, and not being afraid to ask for advice is really, really important, I think, in setting any business up, not getting carried away. And I do think that, there is so many opportunities now, but as we've already touched upon, if we try and do too much, if we lose focus, that can be really, significant for a small business. It's not always going to go your way, and you need to be prepared for that, and you need to learn from that really quickly and come again. But equally, when things are going really well, you need to equally stand back and say, how is the business growing? How are we going to sustain this? Are all the elements in the business coming with us? Let's make sure we're not burning people out. We're not, affecting, customers for obviously the new customers you're taking on. And all of the metrics in the business, keep an eye on those KPIs, are moving positively, because, you can onboard customers, you can burn cash too quickly. The market can change, and you're not looking at the various indicators to see that early enough. And you can be working with different partners in terms of new technologies that are emerging that you should be considering, and so on and so forth. So lots and lots there. What I'd say is, just keep talking, just keep perspective, and looking in and outside of your business to make sure you're still on the right tracks.
some good advice. There's a few times you've said it, but if you can remain open-minded, no matter who you are, whether you're an SME within a business, whether you're a leader, you never know everything. Every day needs to be a learning day, right? Because you're never going to be, you need to always surround yourself with the smartest people in the room, and that's how you kind of grow. So sometimes people fall a little bit short of that, whether it's through an interview process. They're like, well, this is my way, this is how I've always done it, and this is how we need to do it moving forward, versus, well, actually, I'm open to ideas. What's your experiences, and let's come together and actually build something great here. So Matt, I think it's some really good advice. It's really good to hear about what CloudGuard are up to, and I'm sure if anyone's got any questions, I'm sure you'd be happy for them to kind of reach out to you, even around the mentoring piece as well. But it's been really great to have you on. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for having me, Charlie, and thanks to your listeners for listening.